Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Bebop here. Today's video is going to be about light tanking. Now, we'll get into all the specifics, but first let me address the video quality. This was taken off of my stream from about 6 months ago with my old Speedrun crew. Back then, I was only able to stream 720p, and after you take it off the stream and then download it, it just gets a little degraded, so pardon me for that. Now, when should you light tank? What dungeons are best to light tank in? The reasons for light tanking and getting started in that. Well, it's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. The reasons for light tanking is mostly mobility. Now, you will be doing more damage, but it's mostly mobility, so the tank can be faster. The dodge effect is obviously faster than the hop you have in heavy. And also adding things like accelerated trap musket in another gear set. So when you go from, let's say, this boss right here to the arrow guy at the next area, it's a long run. So, and when you also skip taxi, it's a really long run. So you can actually get from point to point a lot faster. Now let's talk about damage. As you see here, I'm doing about 5,000 or 4,000 a hit. So you do have increased damage, which is going to help you melt the mob faster. We have the healer in with the Void Blade. Everybody's in on it, all hands on deck. And that's what you need with speedruns. That's what the light equip load will also help you with. And what you will see at the first boss is the amount of damage I could do as a tank. And also with this boss, if you go with the Lost Stopwatch with strike protection amulet, then you will be able to really do a lot of damage if you put, let's say, a moonstone or whatever gem that you think is best that suits you into your sword. Your taunts will be 300% stronger, so you still don't have to use a carnelian with it, and then you will be able to do more damage. But when you come up to areas like this right here, this is one of the spots right here that is very dangerous for a tank. Usually you would have stone form on and not the little firestorm, but I like to put that on at times to proc silence ahead if there was silence on this name. Now you do see me get really low there and kind of get lucky. Now, in certain pulls like that, you definitely want to make sure you have stone form so you can have the fortify. They are very dangerous pulls, and they're going to be some pulls like that you're going to run into throughout the dungeon. Now, if you have a good healer and whatnot, a good team, we did have some couple fill-ins here, so wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get that silence proc, so I ended up running the Firestorm. But both the fill-ins at that time are very excellent players, and I should have known that I should have had stone form. They were going to be able to proc silence beforehand. Usually the healer will shoot, proc it, and then we can go into the first fight without fighting in silence, so we can actually use our abilities. Now, if you're interested in getting into light tanking, some of the best dungeons to start out with, of course, Genesis is the best, okay? That's the best dungeon to start out with when you're getting into light tanking. That's where you want to start. And unfortunately, this past week was double silence. Not really the week you want to start on Genesis. But this next coming up week, we're probably going to have Savage Divide. So Savage is another great one to start out with light tanking. There is really, I don't think, any pulls that you really have to switch over to heavy for the certain pull. Maybe where the iguanas are before the last final boss. But if you do the skip, if you're doing speed runs, then you don't have to worry about that. Dynasty is another one. Now, Dynasty is a little bit tricky at the first cave area. You might want to switch to heavy for that, especially now without being able to perma CC. I would probably suggest going heavy for that first cave. After that, you can try to go light, depending on what the mutations are. So each week, you're going to have to gauge the mutations and see what they are and see if it will fit with your light build. There's going to be certain ones that are better than others. So that will be a different video. Tempest is another good one to run light, but after the first mob pull. So the first mob pull and the first portal, you might want to just stick to heavy there. After that, you can go light, and you're just going to have big mob pulls. But if you have a good, well-coordinated team with weakening and grouping, you should be able to do that one pretty. I would say it's kind of mediocre on that one, but it is one that you can also get started on, especially the two bosses. Those are pretty easy to light tank. All right, we're going to watch the first boss fight here. I'm going to turn up the volume. Now, as you see, I'm going to be switching sets, and we were going to try to go as low con as we can. I believe it's probably 50 or 5 con, whatever I am here. And we're going to try to hit for a pretty good amount of damage. You need all hands on deck on this boss. It's the biggest gatekeeping boss in the game. So let's get started. Wasted my damn shit on them. Dude. Watch out, he's gonna turn. Never mind, he's backing up. I'll rotate. Now. Heads up, heads up. Watch out the cloud. Serum. I'm gonna taunt here in a second. It's coming up. I'm gonna be where I'm at. I don't know. Big hits. And easy. Let's go, dude. Now, when you first get into light tanking and you're tanking that boss, it will be scary going down to 5 or 50 con or whatever you want to do. But don't worry about it. You will get used to it. If you get knocked, no big deal. A lot of speed runs are practices that you need to have. There's a reason why a lot of speedrun crews used to have 3 or 4 different accounts. That's why a lot of us veterans are kind of over the whole ranking up again and again on different servers, because we did it in the past. We don't want to do it again. Leveling back then was way more boring and slow than what it is now. The leveling now is a lot more streamlined, but anyways, kind of getting off on a side tangent. So that's what you want to do, is just you got to really push stuff at this level when you want to get into speedruns and light tanking. You're going to have a lot of runs that absolutely go to shit. That's fine. That's part of it. If you watch any of the best crews, they will have runs that are just pure dog crap and they don't know what's going on. Like, what happened here? What are we doing? We're not focused. And then you'll eventually get one that you put together, and that's what makes it fun. You're pushing your limits, you're pushing your abilities, you're pushing, trying to figure out different ways to do things as a group. Everything's happening live. You got to be able to react, and it's just, that's what's fun about running M3s over and over and over. A lot of people will be like, well, why do you like running dungeons over and over? Isn't it boring? No, because you're constantly pushing the edges, trying to get better and more dangerous to try to get faster. And stuff happens while you're in the middle that you have to account for and roll, and just, it's teamwork. Oh man, it's great time. So that's where a lot of us are kind of sad that in season 7 now M3s aren't really a thing anymore, and haven't been since the tournament came out. They kind of ruined them. But maybe they'll be great here in the future. We don't know. All right, let's get back to Genesis here. This pull right here is really good pull to go heavy on, okay? This is a very difficult one to go light on because there's a lot of enemies. You got the soldiers, you got this big dude, but like I said, if you have a good group and good weakening and whatnot, you can get through it. Now, as we head to the final stage here, you want to make sure you stay to the left, or don't pull that archer, but also you want to stay to the left here. Fight the archer by itself. Don't pull the soldier. We're not interested in that. Oh, nice reap. And here we go. Now you can see I had my lost stopwatch at the time with the ice protection on there from way back when Elysian Wilds first came out. Wasn't really sure what protection I wanted to put on there, but I did it for ice because I hated tanking ice mutations the most at the time. You will really want to put strike on there and use it for boss fights. But in case you were wondering, that's why I have it on there for ice mutations and why I'm running with the moonstone in my sword. Now let's get back to what we were talking about previously before the first boss fight. The first room is where most of the runs go wrong, so you might want to stick to heavy there. You can light tank that during certain weeks, but it's really best in that room. It's not about speed as far as the tank is concerned. It's about getting through that first room. After that, you can light tank everything. Maybe the final pull before the final boss, you might want to switch to heavy, but that's up to you and your skill. Now, some of the worst dungeons, in my opinion, to light tank is Starstone. The high level of entry of skill on that dungeon is probably the highest out of all the dungeons. Starstone is just a nightmare. The archers, the arcane from the mages is just, the grouping and, the guys just sliding around everywhere. It's very difficult. Forge is also difficult for light tanking because those big shield guys that knock you unconscious, you're very susceptible to getting killed there. the lightning guy with the big sword, I forget what his name is. It's just very difficult. Now, the first boss you can light tank easy. The last boss, hell to the no. Good luck with that. Depths is another hard one. A lot of mobs, a lot of things hit very hard, and it's not one that you want to run in light unless you are highly experienced with a extremely good crew. Tarn, Glacial Tarn is in the middle. I mean, it's like there's parts of it you can light tank, there's parts of it you probably don't want to. To me, the long hallway that you have to skip, usually someone's going to be running heavy there, probably like 450 con or something like that, and they're going through to grab aggro and everything, and then they're going to pull all those mobs out, and then they will basically hold those until the rest of the group can get through the reaver, open the bridge, and get going. Okay, that's how you would do it on a speed run. You would just skip that whole hallway and all the enemies. And then we end off with Lazarus. The first room, you definitely want to be in heavy unless you're highly experienced and know what you're doing, but I'm making this video for people getting into light tanking. The first room, go heavy, okay? That's what you want to do. After that, then you can go light. There will still be some hard areas where the wash hands room, is. That's difficult. Scylla, you can light tank, but with the first boss being Scylla, you're going to have to be careful of the new arcane, attacks that she does and getting stunned. So there's going to be a little caution there, but you should be just fine. Just make sure you have Fortified Shield Rush on your shield so you can increase your Fortify, and you should be just fine. Now, the rest of that dungeon, you can light tank pretty easily, I would say. Maybe the room right before the last boss where you have the water and all that stuff you're in, that can get a little bit hairy because that's a lot of enemies that you're pulling there. So it's up to you. If you're taking all the enemies from where the minables are all the way to the water, then you probably want to go heavy. But if you're interested in getting into light tanking, those are some of the philosophies or mindsets behind it. Don't be afraid to start doing that in your M1 and M2 dailies. That's how you're going to build up the skill and the knowledge. So make a set with all opals so you don't have to keep changing gems or whatnot. And you just change your amulet week to week, okay? And then that way you can start practicing in M1 and M2s. Those are your best ones to practice in. And this is how you can make tanking fun, okay? And a lot of people say tanking is boring, blah, 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 blah. It is not if you make it fun. Now, a lot of us veterans, the only way we have fun tanking is in light anymore. It's the only challenge that we get while tanking. So feel free to experiment, have fun. It is a game. Enjoy yourself, and I will see y'all on the next video. If you have any questions or suggestions for videos, I'm always looking for ideas. Leave them in the comments. I answer all the comments back. And I do appreciate y'all. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.